But let's get into the tips. So round one has begun. Round one will begin tonight. We've got the first 9 games. Be a big start to the AFL season, and as we start with the traditional game, Carlton versus Richmond. Now, Carlton last season came off a demoralising couple of losses to end the season. They should have made finals, really. It was midway through the year when they beat the Swans. I remember I was at this game. They thought they were going to finish almost top 4, Carlton. And
they were thinking premiers. Some of them were thinking premiers.
Yeah, I think it was blue baggers, flaggers.
Yeah.
So, but last year they started off with a win against Richmond, which broke a huge drought.
Yeah, so he did start the era of under Voss pretty well.
Yeah, so Michael Voss, he's a little bit under pressure this year, I think, starting off. He has to kind of get Carlton to finals.
Yes, he does.
Yeah. So Carlton will play... Yeah, Carlton and Richmond. Richmond got a couple of good pickups, Taranto and Hopper, but is their list aged too long now? They got a lot of old players. Rewalt, Lynch is getting up there now. Martin, Cochin, Dylan Grimes, Robbie Tarrant. On every single line they're pretty old.
Yeah, so I think if they start, they're going to have to start strong because they may fade late in the season. So
Richmond.
Yeah, I think so.
That's probably right. And also I think in this game they've got to have to start well too because Carlton. Yeah. They also missed the finals, so they've got a couple of extra weeks on training, like pre-season.
Yeah.
And then sometimes the finals teams do start off a little bit slowly. So, I don't know. Who are you picking?
I think Richmond. I think they've got the experience of the midfield. It might take a bit long to gel, but I think they've still got it.
You think Richmond will win?
Yeah, pretty comfortably, I think, actually.
Pretty comfortably, alright. I've picked Richmond to win this game as well, purely because I did pick Carlton to make the 8, if you guys saw my ladder prediction last episode. But I think Richmond... It's hard to trust Carlton yet. I think that's the big thing that Carlton... The trust is not there yet. I wouldn't be surprised if Carlton pull off a win in round 1. I think they have to start the season off well. But Richmond, I feel like they're going to want to... If they want to make finals this season, I think it'll be a good test to see if they want to make finals and they want to prove themselves. This game's a real proving game. If they win this game, they can prove to the league that they've still got something. But if they lose it, I feel like bottom 10's a pretty easy finish, almost off round 1.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah,
I think so, yeah. Just wait and see.
Alright. So now we get to our game of the week. Now this will be the game that I'll be streaming live on the channel. I can't stream the game live, but I can commentate it. It's Geelong versus Collingwood. So this game was the qualifying final of last year. Pretty big game. Collingwood almost won it, but Geelong just pulled off. They won by 6 points or something in the end?
Yeah, 6 points.
Yeah, 6 points. Yeah, so Geelong just won. This will be a huge test for Collingwood because most people have ruled them off, including myself.
And me, definitely.
And you. So your tip for the game is Geelong?
Yes, I think it'll be a close game. Collingwood are going to start well, but I think they'll claw back Geelong. So it'll be a close game.
I'm going to pick Geelong as well. I think premiership favourites, early start of the season, and the fact they won it. Sometimes Geelong do start slow though in seasons, even though I think that's one possibility. So for any Collingwood fans out there, I wouldn't be saying that it's not I don't think it's impossible for Collingwood to pull off a win early in the season against Geelong, but I'm going to be picking Geelong. I think it's hard to go against them early on in the season anyway because of how good they performed late last year.
Yeah, and I think the amount of youth that they did get in, that it might just help a bit with the way they're playing.
Tanner Bruin, Ollie Henry, Jack Bowes. I think that could be interesting. We've also got next up. So we've gone from the game of the round to probably
the disappointment.
Of the round. North Melbourne versus West Coast Eagles.
Yeah, it's not going to be a great game.
Not going to be a great game, I don't think. We saw from the pre-season game that West Coast look a little bit promising on some facets. They look a little bit... they beat Port in one of the games, and they lost... Who they playing?
They lost the Crows, yeah.
They lost to the Crows, yeah. So, I don't really think we have to spend much time on this.
No.
I'm going to pick West Coast. I know it's in Melbourne, but I just don't trust North Melbourne. Alistair Clarkson's there, so that's a big thing for them, and they... I don't know. I just can't trust North Melbourne to win the first game of the season. I mean, if North Melbourne win, they make the top 8 basically, so they can sit in top. They can sit in the top 8 for 1 week.
Yeah, that's stop the season now, guys. If they win that game, stop the season.
Yeah,
that's the only time they'll be in the top 8 this season.
North Melbourne fans will be tattooing and like position on the ladder on their shoulder. Yeah, because that's going to be the highest they finish for a couple of years. But yeah, basically West Coast.
Yeah, West Coast.
West Coast as well. After that, we get to Port Adelaide versus Brisbane. So Port Adelaide probably the biggest team under pressure going into the season, I think.
Yeah, I think if Port Adelaide aren't in the 8 by the bye round, Ken Hinkley may lose his job before that. Yeah. So, yeah. But it's not going to be a good start to Port season because they're not going to win this match. They have lost the last 5 matches against Brisbane, and it's not going to change this week.
Yeah, I think I'm going to tip Brisbane as well. The one thing on Port's side, though, is it is Adelaide Oval. So
yeah, the last time that happened, it still didn't matter. So
yeah, but Port, if they want to make finals this year, this would be a perfect start if they can pull off an upset against Brisbane, because Brisbane are up there with the premiership favourites as well. So, and Josh Dunk was a huge get for them. So I'm going to be picking Brisbane. You're picking Brisbane.
Yeah.
So I think we tipped the same so far.
Yeah, so
far. Next one we get to is Melbourne versus the Bulldogs. Now, this is one thing we're going to be doing different here on the channel is we're going to be doing a certainty pick. Now, with a certainty pick, every single week, me and my brother here are going to be picking one game every single week is going to be a certainty pick. Now, what we mean by this is this game, we are certain that this team is going to win. Now, how we'll go in other rounds is you have to pick a team who lost the previous week. So if Sydney lost in round 1, in round 2, you can pick them for a win. But if Sydney win in round 1, you can't pick them in round 2 as a certainty pick.
Yeah.
But because it's round 1, it's hard to we can't really do that. So we're going to be picking from a team had to finish lower than the team they're playing. So this week, my certainty pick is going to be the Bulldogs to beat the Demons. Now, the certainty pick has punishments involved if you get them wrong. So I'll put it up on the screen now. If you get a wrong tip, if I get it wrong this week, and my brother gets it wrong this week, or one of us do, we have to eat 2 Weet Bix with no milk, no nothing. It has to be solid Weet Bix, which is fucking gross if any of you have done that before. And obviously, as the wrong tips go on, we're going to be getting worse and worse punishments. Now, I've gone up to 5 here, and the 5 one is wear rivals Guernsey for 24 hours. Now, as we mentioned earlier, I'm a Swan supporter, my brother's a Port supporter. So if we get to that point of 5, and you also have to buy the jersey as well, my brother will wear for the podcast a Crows jumper for the whole podcast.
Oh, who said that? I thought it was going to be a Swans one.
No, you're not wearing a Swans one. You're wearing a Crows one.
Wow, yeah.
And I've got to buy a Giants jumper if we get to that point. And if we get to 5 pretty early on in the season, we'll probably add some more punishments. But if it gets to late in the season, we'll just go to further on, like $50 to the membership of the other one at the end of the season. The other ones are, if it's 2 wrong tips, we have to get an arm or leg waxed. And I'm not talking like, it needs to be like the painful one. it's the whole point. The third one is if we get 3 tips wrong, we have to eat chili and wasabi. So that's kind of a normal one. And then, because petrol prices are so high at the moment, if we get to 4, then the other person has to buy the other person's petrol for the next time they go. I was thinking a month, but I feel like that's going to be like hundreds of dollars. Maybe a month, but no, probably not. But yeah, that's basically, I think, alright, the last thing as well is, because I've picked first this week, my brother will pick first next week, because it's a bit unfair if I pick them first because we can't pick the same game as a certainty pick. We have to pick 2 different games. So I'm picking first this week. So basically all the odd number rounds will be mine, and all the even number rounds will be yours, because there's 24 rounds in the season now. Yeah. With the new gather round. Stupid name. But yeah, basically that's what we're going to do. So hopefully you guys understand that. If you don't, let us know in the comment section. I'll try to explain it a little bit better. But I think that's kind of it.
Yeah, I think... but I'm going with the Bulldogs in this game. It's just...
You'll pick the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I've contemplated all week, but with the injuries that they just got from Melbourne, that it's just too hard to pick Melbourne at the moment.
Yeah, to be honest, I was actually kind of dreading making that pick earlier in the week because I already kind of thought of this idea earlier. But now I'm kind of happy that I picked first because I think because it's kind of hard to pick a lot of the other games. And a lot of the games this season, in round one, are the favourites are the team who finished higher.
Yeah.
So, and even then, like Melbourne could still pull off a good win. They've still got a lot of good players in their team. They've still got Oliver and Petrarca and all these really good players. So they could still. I mean, I still think Melbourne are the favourites, honestly, but the Bulldogs. I'm just going to tip to win this game.
Yeah.
You don't think they're favourites?
Oh, I think they were, but I don't think they will be now.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. All right. Now we get to the next game, which is the Gold Coast versus Sydney. So Sydney have a pretty poor record against the Gold Coast, and it's up at the what ground is this? Heritage Bank Stadium. Is that their new stadium?
Yeah, that's Metricon now. That's the new sponsored one.
Bank Stadium. Jesus Christ. Fucking hell. Sucks. Anyway, the Gold Coast versus Sydney. Sydney do have a pretty poor record against the Gold Coast. Stuart Hughes actually got the wood over John Longmire a lot of times. Sydney coming off a huge loss in the grand final. Will they have a hangover? I don't know. Do you see the Gold Coast have a chance to beat Sydney in round one?
Yeah, I do. You want to play. You don't want to play against the Gold Coast early. I don't think they always start well.
Yeah, that's true. They do always start. They always can start a lot better than what they finish because I don't know how they still have problems finishing the season anyway. Like they've been in the league for 12, 13 years. Like I think it's about time you stop having poor ends. I mean, you can have that with young kids earlier on in the career and the team, but now I think they're old enough that they shouldn't be having problems late season with fitness and stuff and players. I'm going to be picking Sydney in this game though. I still think the Swans. I know the pre-season game's hard to go off form of pre-season, but Sydney did look good, and Errol Goulden playing in the midfield this season looks like he's going to be very promising. Are you picking this?
Yeah, I'm picking the Swans. I just think that a lot of teams that do lose by big margins don't change a lot of game style, but it seems like the Swans is changing it a bit with the Goulden going in the midfield and stuff like that. They're changing it up a bit, which I think is going to be interesting how it works, which I think it will work. It looks like it. So, yeah, I'm thinking the Swans will win.
Yeah. And the thing is, no one really dropped out of that midfield either, so it's going to be a pretty young... It's another year into Warner, Goulden, Florent, all these young guys. Campbell as well. He looks like he'll be playing in round one, I'm assuming. So I'm going to be picking Sydney. You're picking Sydney. We still haven't picked one different. I don't even know if we do pick one different this week.
Yeah,
so,
we didn't discuss all the tips for the...
Yeah, we didn't actually discuss this, but yeah, anyway. We move to Sunday, the Giants versus the Crows. This is a pretty hard one to pick from because both of them had a pretty poor end of last year. A pretty poor year last year. The Giants... It's hard to put where the Giants are going to go. They lost another two midfielders. It looks like they're going to be going further down than up this season. I can't see the Giants doing much at all. They've still got really no forward line.
No, the trial of Himmelberg back, I think backfired a bit. They're going to start him back forward, I think. And Jesse Hogan just has to stay on the field. So if he can, they've got some target, but that's really much it. Yeah.
Now the Crows got Isaac Rankin. That's a pretty good up forward for them this year. They've got Darcy Fogarty, who had a pretty good end to last year. Taylor Walker's up there too. The problem with the Crows is they really rely on Laird in the middle. And it's hard to say if Sloan's going to be anywhere near as good as he was. Yeah. And their defence is very young. I mean, they've got Jordan Dawson down there, new captain, but it's a really hard one to pick. Who are you going with?
I've went in the Crows. I think just with that firepower up forward, they've only got Sam Taylor down back, really. Iden, but they should be able to kick a winning score, the Crows.
Alright, well, this is our first difference because I've gone the Giants. I think the Giants in Sydney would be... If this was at Adelaide Oval, I'd be with you, with the Crows. I'm going to be going the Giants in round one. I don't really know why. I feel like the midfield of the Giants will get on top of the Crows, and it's going to be hard for the Crows to stop the likes of Harry Himmelberg if he's up forward. I feel like the Crows are just going to find it hard to get it in the forward line with their midfield. If the Giants play a not a defensive style of midfield, but if they are willing to win the football and play on the defensive side of the Crows and not run forward all day, like they have been in the past, they've been quite a selfish football team with like a very pretty football team. They, run full. They're always on the forward. They're not many defensive midfielders like a Toot Miller or something for the Gold Coast. Not someone who's a two-way runner. If they're willing to run forward and they get the ball forward enough, the Giants should win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I just don't.
I kind of drifted off towards the end of it, but yeah, I'm going to be on the Giants. You're going Adelaide.
Yeah.
Now we get to another stellar dweller game. I don't know.
But it is a rivalry.
Yeah, it is a rivalry. It's one of the bigger rivalries in the comp. Essendon versus Hawthorn. Hawthorn, I think they've cut way too young.
Yeah, 100% they have. Like, they got Bruce, Sicily. Even he's only 28, 29, so it's not that. It's not.
They've got no forward line. They've got a very young forward line. Luke Bruce is their really only experience. Their midfield, John Newcomb and Warple did look pretty good in the preseason game. I think they could be promising for the Hawks in the future.
But not now, no.
Not now.
No.
The Bombers, on the other hand, haven't looked that good either. Let's be real. They've not looked that good either. They did change their captain to Zach Merritt. I don't even know if that was a really good change, but who else did they have to pick from?
I'm surprised they didn't keep it as Heppel, really. I thought they were going to keep it Heppel.
Yeah.
That's what most of the players were thinking. So
yeah. I think the Bombers will win this game purely on if you just look at both their their lineups, really there's not really a best 22 for Hawthorn that can beat, especially in the midfield. I think Essendon will win it in the midfield. They got Dylan Shield, Darcy Parish, Zach Merritt, Sam Draper. I feel like that's a better midfield than Warple, Newcomb. Who's their third midfielder?
Dylan Moore probably goes through there.
Dylan Moore, I guess, but and Lloyd Meek or Ned Reeves, one of the ruckmen from Hawthorn. So I think Essendon have got a pretty decent forward line. They got Peter Wright, they got Sam Wiedemann now. Tip and Woody's back for them.
Oh, I don't think he plays round one, but yeah, you got it. Yeah, he's gonna be.
He did play the trial game, didn't
he? Yeah, but I don't know. I think he still looks a bit unfit. I know Kane Corns said that. That means it's wrong, but yeah, he did look unfit. So it'll be interesting.
Who are you picking?
I went for a certainty pick, and I've picked an Essendon.
All right, so that means that our certainty picks for this week is the Bulldogs for me to beat Melbourne, and Essendon to beat Hawthorn.
Yeah.
Now, Essendon did finish lower than Hawthorn last year, which I couldn't remember. My brother had to quickly check to make that pick. That means that, so if Hawthorn beat the Bombers or the Demons beat the Bulldogs, one or both of us next week will be eating Wheat Bix without any milk.
Yeah.
So it's obviously not a very hard one. Well, it is a bit hard. I don't think fucking anyone wants to eat Wheat Bix. Have you ever had Wheat Bix without milk?
No.
It sucks. I think I had half of one once and I spat it out because it's basically it's just wheat, so it's not good. It's like cardboard, but it's a good one to start off with, and hopefully it doesn't happen earlier on in the season. I'm sure one of us will get it wrong early, and then we'll be a little bit more cautious because I don't think anyone wants to eat wasabi, and I definitely don't want to wear a Giants jumper. I know you definitely don't.
I don't want to wear a Crows one.
Yeah, so
100% I don't want to wear a Crows one.
All right, we'll get to the last game of the round. St Kilda versus the Dockers. Now, this is in Melbourne, so it does bring a little bit of questioning into mind. However, the Saints have a huge injury list.
It's the biggest one in the comp, isn't it? At the start of the season.
Yeah, they've got Max King's obviously out. Tim Membry's out now. That was another injury I was supposed to mention. Now, the Dockers, on the other hand, I feel like they're going to struggle to put Luke Jackson in this team. He's not much of a goal kicker. They showed that late for Melbourne last year that they chucked Gawn in the forward line because they didn't want to have Jackson up forward. They chucked Jackson in the middle. So, can you put Darcy in the forward line?
I don't think you need the big bustling ruckman needs to be the ruckman. He can't be the forward because.
And he looked good in those trial games too, Sean Darcy.
Yeah, his best performances are when he is the sole ruckman. He just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. I mean, look, Luke Jackson's a very good young player. I mean, he won the Rising Star 2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it wasn't a bad trade, obviously, but I feel like he's just going to be struggling to find a spot in that team. And for me, I will be picking the Dockers this game, but I feel like they're the question mark of the whole season. Where are they going to finish? Are they going to finish in the top 8, or are they going to finish outside?
Yeah.
Because their forward line now, because of the loss of Rory Lobb and Griffin Logue to an extent, because he did play a little bit up forward. What did Josh Jenkins say? Well, that's another thing with the going back to the thing about the Victorian media. Josh Jenkins literally came out on, I think it was SEN, and said Fremantle won't make finals this year because Fremantle lost their best defender in Griffin Logue. I'm sorry, Josh, but I'm sure Alex Pearce and Luke Ryan. Yeah. I've got something to say about that.
Well, even Brandon Cox, I think, is better than Griffin Logue.
Yeah, no offense to Griffin Logue. I think he's a good player. But he's not even the 4th best defender at Fremantle.
Yeah.
Let alone the best.
Yeah.
No, that's just stupid. But anyway, now that the Dockers they've got to rely on their smalls, and their smalls are good. Like, Switkowski, I think, is one of the most underrated players in the game. He never misses a kick. Luke Schultz is quite good up there. Liam Ryan's came on this year, so they said he's been pretty good. He's going to be playing on a wing to half forward. Sam Sturt is a young kid, could be playing round 1. And the big one as well, Nat Fyfe.
Yeah, he's the wild card. If he can kick 40 goals, they're top 4, I think. If he can kick 40, Taberner can stay on the field.
If both them two can kick 40 and the Smalls can kick their 20, they could make top... They'll make top 8. If Nat Fyfe can kick 40 goals, stay on the field for 20-plus games, they'll make the 8.
Yeah, they'll make the 8 easily. They'll make the 8 easily.
But if Fyfe gets injured early, they're relying heavily on Taberner.
Who's been injury prone
as well.
Career.
They've got a very thin forward stocks, the Dockers.
Yeah.
Very thin for forward stocks. I mean, yes, they picked up the Gold Coast player, Josh Corbett.
Yeah, haven't heard much since he went.
Yeah, I haven't really heard much about him since he's got there. So I'm not really expecting too much from him. But if he comes in and plays well, maybe 20 goals. Yeah. But I'm not really expecting Josh Corbett to come in and kick 50 goals for the Dockers.
Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. I've went Fremantle just because the amount of injuries the Saints have got. But Ross Lyon will want to try and turn this team around quickly. So
yeah, well, that's true. I don't think he's going to be able to bring an attacking... I think that's a big thing as well, because he's always been a defensive coach, and the Saints the last few years have tried to play just a run-and-gun game. They've looked their best when they've been the run-and-gun team.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm going the Dockers, you're going the Dockers.
Yeah.
So basically our only difference this week is the GWS Adelaide game.
Yeah.